All right, so welcome back to my channel. I'm Gavin Canfield, and today we have gotten ourselves into a nice little piece. We just picked up a old South Bend lathe. As of right this moment, I don't know the exact year on it. It is single phase 220, and I'm excited. I am excited. The guy that I bought it from bought out an old machine shop years ago and had this kind of just sitting in one of his shipping containers, and the opportunity arose and I didn't want to pass up on it. You know, obviously she's not perfect. She's old, but you know, a little bit of Scotch-Brite, a little WD-40, we can clean these rails up real quick. It's got a 4-jaw chuck, and it is belt driven, but similar to ones I've used in the past. You can change the gears to change your ratios, to change your feeds, your speeds, and to do different thread pitches. You know, we've got our tail stocker, and everything still moves and functions as it should. So she's gonna need a little assistance, but we're gonna revive this old girl, and you'll see us turn metal with it yet. So let's get it back to the shop and get it unloaded. So this is actually quite longer than I thought it was, and I got to keep it spaced away from the wall to hook up the motor and everything to it. I do want to keep it relatively close to the panel box for now, just because my 220 extension cord is only so long, and having some of this other stuff in the way is really going to kind of hinder my ability to locate it somewhere close by. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just set it there for right now, and then at least it's inside out of the weather and I can move it in a little bit. right, I had to phone a friend on this one. This thing's way, way older than me, and I had no idea. I had the thing suspended in the air, but it looks like it might work this way. So you change your belt, and then you lock that in to apply tension. However, the current belt that's on there would never reach. So I think we have to adjust these bolts maybe, so the extension isn't so far. I don't know. I mean, I think this would work, but could be wrong. I mean, it shouldn't matter too much to the electric motor to be mounted vertically like that. It's not like it's got any fluids in it or anything. It just is very curious as to how this was adjusted this way to begin with. Like, maybe the lathe set higher than that, and the geometry was different. I don't know. We'll get through it. We'll learn here. Once you do get it figured out, we'll be able to fire the thing up and see if she spins some metal. But until then, this might be interesting. See, problem is even in this configuration with it pulled all the way in, the belt still never reaches. All right, I think I figured it out. So I got the belt hooked up right now, and when you push this forward, tightens up the belt, puts tension on the pulleys, you pull it backward, it would allow you to change the belt to a different speed, and then push it forward again to get your tension. Now, might not be the proper tension just yet. We can adjust our screws and bolts. We also have to level this whole thing. I'm just trying to get it kind of set up so when I do have some free time to actually take the machine, or when I do have some free time to level up the machine, then it's already hooked up where I could start using it or start spinning things, see what I need to lubricate, see what I need to polish up. So while that's like that, let's see. I grabbed this lawnmower belt because the V-belt that was on this pulley here got broke when originally getting loaded. And I don't know if something like this is going to work or not. I mean, this thing seems to be significantly smaller than what came off of here, which doesn't make any sense. Huh. I must have read this wrong when I measured it, because this is completely the wrong size. Now, drop a comment below. I don't know much about V-belts, but these V-belts have almost like rivet styles, and then the material almost overlaps in them. I don't know if you can just take a section out and hook it back together and your belt still works, or once it breaks like this, it's trash. So if you guys know anything about V-belts, you know, drop a comment below, because if I can just take this apart and hook it back together, that would probably be ideal. All right, so we finally got the right size belt, I should say lengthwise. Widthwise, we are supposed to be at 5/8, but they didn't have any in stock for the proper length. So I went with a 1/2 inch for now. We'll use that to get us by. And then I'll look into ordering one that's the proper thickness, just so it rides on the pulley the proper way. The next step that we need to do is give it a power supply. So what I did was, and some of you might like this idea, some of you might absolutely roast me in the comments, but I went to Harbor Freight, got a extension cord that's 10 gauge, and I'm basically gonna cut the ends off of it and wire it in and turn it into said power cord for lathe. This gives me about 25 feet that I can be away from my hookup. I do already have, I don't know if you can see it, I do already have essentially a 25-foot extension cord for the 220, but for right now, I think this is the best course of action, because then as I get my shop finished and I move this around, I don't have to have an outlet, you know, right next to the thing or right behind the thing. I have some flexibility. The other cool thing is, which is kind of shocking to me, the motor that powers all this is actually only 6.8 amps at full load. So I technically didn't even need to go to 10 gauge, but I figured it's better to oversize it than, you know, use some type of dinky little extension cord and have issues down the road. So at this point, we'll basically cut the ends off and get them prepped, hook it up on the other side, get a 220 plug on the other side, and we'll power this thing up so you guys can see it spin. I'm not gonna lie, it does kind of irk me that I'm about to do this to a brand new extension cord, because if any of you have bought an extension cord recently, they're not cheap. Even if you go to a place where they are, they're still not cheap. But it's also probably cheaper than if I went and just bought the wire itself that didn't have an end on it that I had to cut off. So now, maybe if I would have left a little length on these, I could have, you know, soldered them back into something and used them again. But since these are molded in place, they're pretty much junk now. All right, so we'll have our 2 hots and our ground. Now I thought about tinning the ends of these or soldering them so it holds all the strands together, since it's not solid wire, but I don't know if I'm gonna get that carried away with it today or not. All right, so those are all wired in. We'll clamp this down so it holds the cable tight. All right, there's one end complete. Now, we just basically have to do the same process, but down on the low side of the motor. So we'll make our connections down there. We'll bring you back to plug it in to show you that it operates. All right, so I didn't bother showing you hooking this up because it's miserable down on the floor, but we're all good to go. We are all wired in. This is hooked up, and when we turn on the breaker, we should have power going through all of this. Now, the downfall to the way I just hooked it up, which just dawned on me, I had to use the breaker to turn it on and off, which is not a smart way of working this machine if that's your only way of shutting it off. So, what we will end up doing is we'll have to use some type of on-off switch. This box here is, I believe, the original on-off switch. So wire would have come out of the motor, gone into this box. There's a set of fuses. This turns it on, this turns it off, that turns it on, this turns it off. And then out of there, we would be able to, you know, shut the machine on and off easily. But we don't have that ability to do that at the moment, so. Okay, all right, so the motor's spinning, the pulley's spinning. There's not enough tension for this belt to do anything. What I'm gonna do for a minute, I'm gonna pull this belt off of here, and while the while these spin, I'm going to use some steel wool and see if I can clean it up any. Just want to be very careful that we don't get our hands caught in anything, but just gonna basically let that spin and let the steel wool start cleaning. All right, so that cleaned that stuff up quite a bit. There is still some pieces that we need to touch up. I'm gonna use the steel wool and some WD-40 to polish these up quick. All right, so I could probably get these cleaned up a little bit nicer, but obviously this is a huge improvement from where it was, and I think once the belt starts going on here, it'll probably actually naturally polish itself. So what we need to do now is we are going to have to adjust these threaded rods to allow for more tension when we close this, so the belt can actually grip. This way we can spin the other side, which is going to spin the headstock, and it'll also allow us to clean those pulleys on that side. So I'm gonna adjust these out, create more tension, and we'll try again. Alright, let's try to do something. We must not have enough tension just yet, or it's the fact that one of the surfaces is too slippery. All right, so went online and bought us a tool holder because the lathe itself only came with a boring bar, which we actually will need that, but for right now we're gonna attempt to just use this practice piece and see if we can just turn some metal off the outer diameter. All right. So, here's the tool holder for the boring bar. Just gonna remove that, set that aside. Here's the tool holder I bought off of eBay, so hopefully I don't have any troubles with it. Now, let's see here. We're actually gonna wanna do something like this. And then we have these other bits. I bought these previously when I was trying to do this work with somebody else's lathe. So let's see if I can dig out the right, yeah. And let's see if it fits. Okay, so that might be a problem that it only goes in so far. Might give us a lot of chatter, I don't know. Other problem being that this is going to require us to slide this whole thing back, which I guess I could achieve that as well by just sliding this back. For some reason, moving in this direction. Doesn't like to slide very easily. Did take this stuff apart. It looks like maybe the screw itself's got a little bit of a bend to it. Everything else is cleaned up. It's not rusted, so I'm not exactly sure why it's so hard to turn. Moving up and down the bed, it's moving pretty freely now that I grease some things up. But let's take our practice piece. Now this is a 4-jaw chuck, so unfortunately you have to tighten down each jaw like individually. So I feel like it's kind of hard to get your part perfectly centered by this means, but I could be wrong. See, and then you can't tighten it up too much, because you also gotta do it in the other direction. Comment below if you know how to do this properly. I feel like, out of 3 jaws, they move all simultaneously. This is like all individually, which is wild. How you would ever get this centered. I guess the old timers would have had to put like a dial indicator on here and then adjust it as they go. All right, that looks pretty good. Now, the scariest thing about this whole setup, which I promise you I will change in the near future, when we wired in this extension cord, we wired it directly to the motor. That means as soon as that breaker and the panel box is turned on, this thing starts spinning. Well, as you can imagine, that's really dangerous in the event that you were to get sucked into this machine. There's no off button anywhere near you. It's 25 feet behind you in another room. So I promise, I will wire up a kill switch to this thing so you can turn it on and off safely. But for the purposes of demonstrating that this antique of a lathe works, we are going to operate it today just like this. So I'm gonna get a couple things just adjusted a little bit closer so it's easier. I don't have to spend so much time, moving the handles in and out to get it to where it needs to be. And I will tell you guys, I am not a professional. I am not a machinist. I have a couple years experience operating a up-to-date lathe and mill, but this thing is easily, 60 to 80 years older than I am. If not, probably 60 to 80 years older than me. So there's going to be a learning curve, and we'll get through this together. And hopefully, through me experimenting with this, it can help some other people that are viewing the channel. But basically, with your cutting tip, you want to be right at the center line or slightly below. And when I say slightly, I mean just minimal. You can test that by when you face the first side. If there's a little tiny nipple in the center still, your tip is in the wrong location. You want it to just basically clean that whole face off nice and clean. You don't want to be above center line. but you can be a hair below center line for it to work. Another thing is speeds and feeds. So since I'm just experimenting with it right now, I'm just gonna do everything by hand, but I'm gonna run this lathe at this speed, which is just my second pulley. I don't know what that equivalates to, unfortunately. And we'll see what kind of surface finish we get. This is 4140 annealed, so it shouldn't be too bad to cut, but like I said, you never know. So, all right, belt's on. This is not contacting. To make, oh, let me do this quick. Let's make sure. It's still a little bit out of round, but for practicing, it's fine. So let's get this turned on. Yeah, so I can see it's got a wobble to it. So, but let's see here. Let's go until we just make contact with the surface. Okay. Just contacted the surface. So now that we've contacted the surface, I'm gonna go in, I don't know, like 3 thou, and then see how it does. Now this does have an automatic feed on it, so let that go. Now you can probably just barely see, I'm just basically dusting it right now. With it being not perfectly centered in this chuck, it's not making contact on the full face just yet. I will have to find a better way to, you know, chuck that up, or I'm gonna have to find a three jaw chuck to make it easier. So we're at 3 to 440. All right, I took a slightly more aggressive pass to clean it up, and honestly, the surface finish is terrible. Surface finish really does suck. So, one thing I can try is to speed it up. So, we'll try that and we'll take another pass. So we sped it up, and I will say the surface finish is exceptionally better. So let's try it one more time. Now, it is a little scary putting this on the fastest speed, considering, you know, it's an old lathe and you'd hate to see something come flying apart. But only time will tell. So let's give it a shot. All right, so that surface finish is essentially the same as the last speed. I think the only way to achieve a slightly better surface finish at this point with this machine would be to slow down your feed rate. However, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but the only way to change your feed rates are to change these gears. And in order to change those gears, you have to have more gears to change into there. So I don't. So maybe I'll try that speed one more time, and I will set it up so I feed it by hand instead of using the automatic feed, and see if I get any better results. So let's do this at 85. All right, survey says smooth, yes. Best situation is going smooth like that. However, and I know you guys can hear it, because this bit is so far out from the tool holder, I'm getting chatter. And that's what all that extra noise is from. It looks like it also maybe cracked the tip of this bit, which is really annoying. So I'm probably gonna have to cut this tool holder bit holder shorter so I can get it further into this piece, eliminate the chatter. However, overall, I would say that I am very happy with this old South Bend lathe. I did not have an exact intention to go and buy a lathe. I am working on a project where this would come in handy, and the opportunity arose, and like somebody once told me, there is no bad time for a good deal. So I took a gamble, and I mean, the original electric motor works. All I have into it essentially is buying it and 2 new belts, which those are consumable parts. You know, you need that anyway, regardless. And you know, a new tool holder, because they didn't come with any tools. I did clean it up a little bit off camera, just lubricated the railways, cleaned some of the stuff up, just so it would be easier to demonstrate to you guys that the machine works and that it does turn metal. But like I said, at this point, I'm really happy with it, and I think if I just dial in a few things, I'll be really set up for the small projects that I'm trying to achieve here with it. And I'm sure once I got it dialed in, my buddies will be coming around wanting to try it out or have me work on some stuff for them. So, but as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please like it, leave a comment down below, hit that subscribe button. We're getting close to the end of the year here, and we are very close to 1,000 subscribers. And with your help, you can get me there. It's been a goal that I've had for this whole year, and we have come a really long way. And I think we need a little over 70 more subscribers. So if we can get there by December 31st, it would be awesome. But let me know what you guys would like, what projects you'd like to see me use this for. I will give you a little Easter egg. This machine back here behind me, the dozer, I've been working on pins and bushings. Got the pins done, but I have to make some custom bushings. So that's why I said the boring bar that came with this machine is going to come in handy. This way we can cut inner diameters and then use obviously our carbide tip to do the outer diameters. But anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. I can live with that surface finish. It's not mirror shiny, but it is pretty darn smooth for a old early 1900s lathe.